The rain poured down in heavy sheets, drenching the streets and turning the world into a blur of grey. But amidst the storm, one sound cut through the night, the desperate cries of a mother. Jason, a successful millionaire known for his sharp business mind, was driving home from a long day, his thoughts focused on the $1 million deal he had just sealed. He hadn't thought much about anyone but himself in years. But that night, something strange happened. As his car slowed at a red light, he noticed a figure in the distance. A woman, her face tear-streaked and framed by the heavy downpour, crouching beside two small children huddled close to her. The scene seemed almost surreal, an image so raw, so full of pain, it felt out of place in the world Jason knew. He could have easily ignored it, driven past, and left it to someone else, but something in his gut told him this was no ordinary situation. He pulled over. The rain was relentless, soaking through his clothes as he stepped out of his car, every drop feeling like it weighed a little more than the last. The mother didn't even notice him approach at first. Her back was hunched, her arms wrapped tightly around her children, shielding them as best she could from the storm. As he got closer, Jason could see the exhaustion etched into her face, the frustration, the helplessness. "Are you okay?" Jason asked, his voice cutting through the din of the rain. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with disbelief, as if she couldn't understand why someone would be willing to stop, why someone would care. I just need help," she stammered, her voice breaking. "My car broke down and I don't have anyone to call. My kids, they're cold. I don't know what to do." Jason's mind raced, trying to make sense of it all. This wasn't a situation he was accustomed to. His life had been about managing wealth, making deals, securing investments. Yet, here he was, standing in front of a woman who had nothing but her children and the weight of the world on her shoulders. In a strange way, it shook him. Something he couldn't ignore. Something inside him shifted. "What's your name?" Jason asked, stepping a little closer, offering a bit of warmth in a place that felt like it was lacking it completely. "Mia," she replied, barely above a whisper. "And these are my twins, Noah and Lily." She gestured to the small faces, peeking out from under the drenched umbrella she had barely managed to hold on to. Jason felt his heart tighten. Twins. She was doing everything she could just to survive, and it wasn't enough. He looked around, realizing that this moment, this stranger's pain, was now pulling him into a world he had long since abandoned. In that brief instant, Jason saw a reflection of his own life. A life where things were supposed to be perfect, but somewhere along the way, something had been lost. He'd spent so much time chasing success that he'd forgotten what it meant to connect, to help, to truly be human. But now, standing here in the pouring rain with Mia and her kids, that hollow feeling inside him grew louder. "Don't worry," Jason said, his voice more certain now. "I'll get you the help you need." He wasn't sure how or why, but he knew he couldn't leave her like this. It was more than just an act of charity. There was something pulling him toward her, toward this family, something deep down inside, like a thread that had been tangled up in his own life, now unraveling before his eyes. As they stood there together in the rain, Jason made a promise to himself. He was going to change this mother's life, but little did he know this moment would change his own life forever, setting him on a path he never expected. What began as a simple act of kindness was about to lead him into an unexpected journey of transformation. But how could one chance encounter turn everything upside down? And more importantly, what would Jason discover about himself along the way? The storm continued to rage around them. But for a fleeting moment, there was a sense of hope amidst the chaos. Jason had no idea where this would lead or how it would change him. But one thing was certain. He was no longer the same man who had driven by this street just moments ago. The question now was, what would he do next? Would he simply walk away, like so many others had? Or would he take a step that would not only change Mia and her children's lives, but also his own? As the rain fell harder, the future seemed uncertain, hanging in the balance. But Jason's heart told him that tonight, his world was about to turn upside down. And it all started with a mother and her twins, crying in the rain. What happens next? The answer will come soon. But for now, the only thing left is to ask, can a moment of compassion truly change a life? Or was this just the beginning of something much bigger than Jason could have ever imagined? Jason led Mia and the twins to his car, the rain still pounding against the pavement. The children shivered, their small arms wrapped around their mother. Without thinking twice, Jason removed his coat and draped it over them, the warmth barely making up for the cold they had endured. Mia hesitated before stepping inside. Jason could see it in her eyes. The worry, the fear. She didn't know him. He was a stranger. In her world, trust wasn't given easily. But what choice did she have? She exhaled, tightening her grip on her children's hands, then climbed into the passenger seat. The car heater hummed to life, filling the space with much-needed warmth. Mia held her twins close, rubbing their arms, whispering reassurances in soft, tired words. Jason stole a glance at them in the rearview mirror. The kids, Noah and Lily, looked no older than 5, their tiny faces pale, eyes wide with exhaustion. "Where were you trying to go?" Jason finally asked, keeping his voice gentle. Mia swallowed hard. "Nowhere," she admitted. "We don't have anywhere." Jason felt something tighten in his chest. "No family. No friends you can call." She shook her head. "No one." Silence filled the car. Jason had spent years around people who had everything. He had built his empire alongside men who threw away money like it meant nothing. Yet here was a mother with 2 children who had nothing, not even a place to sleep. "What happened?" he asked, his voice softer now. Mia looked down, as if debating whether she should tell him. But when she spoke, her words carried the weight of years of struggle. "My husband left," she said. "One day, he just walked out, left me with nothing. I worked as hard as I could, took on extra shifts, but no matter what I did, it was never enough. Rent went up, prices went up, and last week, I lost my job. The landlord kicked us out. I tried to get help, but..." She trailed off, shaking her head. Jason didn't need her to finish the sentence. He knew how the world worked. The system was built to help those who already had something, not those who had nothing. He gripped the steering wheel tighter. "I didn't mean to be out there like that," Mia continued. "I thought I could make it to a shelter, but the car broke down and..." She glanced at her sleeping children, her voice breaking. "I didn't know what else to do." Jason exhaled slowly, trying to process everything. He had spent his whole life working towards success, believing that money solved everything. But in this moment, he saw the harsh truth. It didn't. Mia had worked hard, but hard work hadn't saved her. She had tried, but trying wasn't enough. He thought about his own life, the long nights at the office, the meetings that stretched into endless negotiations, the drive for more, always more. He had built an empire, yet sitting in this car with Mia and her kids, he felt something foreign, something unfamiliar, guilt. For years, he had told himself that people made their own fate, that success came to those who earned it. But was that really true? Jason started the car. "I know a place," he said. Mia's head snapped up. her eyes filled with hesitation. What do you mean? You need a roof over your head, a warm place for the kids. I have an extra apartment. It's not much, but it's something. Mia's lips parted, shock written all over her face. I can't accept that, she stammered. You don't even know me. Jason met her gaze. And you don't know me either. But right now, this isn't about that. It's about them. He nodded toward Noah and Lily, now curled up in the back seat. They need somewhere safe tonight. That's all that matters. Mia was silent, her hands trembling as she held her children close. Finally, after what felt like forever, she whispered, "Okay." The drive was quiet. Jason could feel Mia's unease. The way she kept glancing at him like she was still trying to figure him out. He understood. He would have done the same in her position. When they arrived, Jason led them into the apartment. A furnished but unused space he had kept for business trips. The moment they stepped inside, Mia's shoulders sagged with relief. It was warm, safe, a far cry from the streets. Jason watched as she helped her kids settle on the couch, brushing damp hair from their foreheads. The sight stirred something in him, something he hadn't felt in a long time. "Stay as long as you need," he said. Mia turned to him, gratitude and disbelief flickering in her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" Jason paused, then spoke the truth. "Because I've spent my whole life focused on the wrong things." That night, Jason lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He had spent years believing money was everything. But now, for the first time, he wondered, what was wealth without purpose? And he had a feeling that Mia and her children were about to teach him just that. But as Jason drifted off to sleep, he had no idea that this was just the beginning, that the path Mia had run from would come knocking, that his own beliefs would be tested in ways he never imagined. Because sometimes, the moment you try to change someone else's life, your own life changes even more. Jason woke up the next morning with a strange feeling in his chest. It wasn't regret, and it wasn't exactly relief either. It was something else, something unfamiliar. He got up, stretched, and walked to the guest apartment, half expecting Mia and the kids to be gone. Maybe she didn't trust him. Maybe she'd left in the middle of the night. But when he knocked on the door and Mia answered, her tired face softening into something close to gratitude, he realized she had stayed. Inside, the twins sat at the small kitchen table, munching on some toast Mia must have found in the pantry. For the first time, they didn't look scared. They looked safe. Jason leaned against the doorframe, clearing his throat. "Did you get some rest?" Mia nodded. "More than I have in a long time." She hesitated, then added, "I don't know how to thank you." Jason shook his head. "You don't have to." But even as he said it, he knew this situation was temporary. He couldn't just give them a place to stay forever. Mia needed a plan, a way to get back on her feet. "Have you thought about what you want to do next?" he asked. Mia looked down at her hands. "I want to work. I always have. I just need a chance." Jason knew chances didn't come easy for people like Mia. He also knew he was in a position to do something about it. "I might know someone who's hiring," he said. "A friend of mine owns a cafe downtown. They need a manager." Mia's eyes widened. "I don't have experience managing." Jason smiled. "You've raised twins on your own. Trust me, you're more qualified than you think." Mia let out a shaky breath. "Do you really think they'd give me a shot?" "I don't think," Jason said. "I know." And just like that, something shifted. Mia went to the interview 2 days later. Jason had put in a good word, but she had landed the job on her own. When she got the call saying she was hired, Jason saw something in her eyes he hadn't seen before. Hope. Weeks passed, and things started to change. Mia worked hard, proving herself every day. She found a small apartment nearby, just enough space for her and the twins. Jason helped where he could. But more than anything, he watched in awe as she rebuilt her life piece by piece. One evening, Jason stopped by the cafe to see how things were going. He found Mia behind the counter, laughing as she wiped down an table. Her kids sitting at a booth, doing their homework. She looked up, spotting him. "Hey, stranger," Jason smirked. "I see you're running the place now." She shrugged playfully. Somebody had to. They stood there for a moment, the noise of the cafe humming around them. Then Mia's expression grew serious. "You changed my life, Jason." Jason shook his head. "No, you did that." Mia smiled. But there was something else in her eyes. Something deeper. "You know," she said slowly. "You never told me why. You really stopped that night." Jason exhaled, looking past her, as if searching for the right words. "I think," he started, then met her gaze. "I think I was lost in my own life. I had everything, but at the same time, I had nothing." Mia studied him for a long moment, then nodded, as if she understood more than he was saying. Jason glanced at Noah and Lily. "They're happy." Mia turned to look at them too. Yeah, for the first time in a long time. Jason felt something inside him settle. That night in the rain had started as a simple act of kindness. But in the end, it was so much more. It had changed Mia's life. It had changed the twins' lives. And more than anything, it had changed him. Because sometimes, the most unexpected moments are the ones that make us see the world, and ourselves, differently. And for Jason, that rainy night had done just that.